जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna and thank you for joining. Welcome back. So today onwards we are going to start discussing verse number 2 of chapter number 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And this verse is very significant because Lord Shri Krishna, who has been calm all the while Arjuna was speaking, is now going to speak for the first time. So let's see what happened in the previous verse. So in verse number 1, Sanjana describes that, Lord Sri Krishna, he sees Arjuna lamenting. Arjuna gave in chapter number 1 various reasons why he doesn't want to fight. So in particularly he gives like 4 reasons. And then he kept down his bow and arrow and he sat on the chariot lamenting. He was lamenting like an ignorant man. So therefore, Lord, seeing Arjuna's condition, he is going to speak. So this is verse number 2, where Lord will start speaking. So here we see when the Lord speaks, Vyasdev is putting the word Shri Bhagavana Vacha. So Shri Bhagavana Vacha is indicating that Lord Shri Krishna, who is been called over here as Shri Bhagavan. So this term Shri Bhagavan is only applicable to Lord Shri Krishna. So if Sanjaya is saying something, it is Sanjaya Vacha. If Dhritarashtra is saying something, Dhritarashtra Vacha. Or Arjuna is speaking something, it is Dhritarashtra Vacha. But here it is not Shri Krishna Vacha, it is Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So Vyasdev actually knows that the position of Shri Krishna. So that's why he's putting the word Bhagavan Vacha, Shri Bhagavan Vacha. And wherever in the later chapters, whenever Krishna is going to speak after someone has spoken, then whenever Krishna starts speaking, then this word will be used, Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So this is only applicable to Lord Shri Krishna. And the entire purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing this term, what is Shri Bhagavan Vacha means. So let's recite the Sanskrit. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kutastva Kasmalam Idam Vishame Samupastitam Anaryajustam Aswargam Akirtikaram Arjuna. So there was no equivalent word for Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So Srila Prabhupada coined this term, or he started putting this English translation of Shri Bhagavan Vacha as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the word which when we hear the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need to understand that that is for Lord Shri Krishna. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? How has these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." So Krishna is started chastising, or started his instruction by just chastising Arjuna, that how come at this point of time, when everybody is there in the battlefield and the war is about to start, how come this conditioning have attacked you? So this is a rhetorical question. Rhetorical question means the question itself has answer. So where from, or how come? How come such kind of contamination has come upon you? That is kutastua kasamalam idam, right? And this kasmalam is meaning the dirtiness, or Prabhupada translates as dirtiness or the contamination. Yeah? So this contamination of lamentation, how come you are trapped by this contamination of lamentation? And then Vishame samupastitam. Vishame means at this critical moment. At this critical moment, why you have become so weak? We have become so weak-minded. And then he's saying, this doesn't befit you. You are a glorious person. So this doesn't befit somebody of some personality of your stature. So, there are sometimes people called as chokers. So, chokers are the people who lose their nerve at the time of pressure. So, this is a crisis moment, and you should show your strength. This is what, for this particular moment, you have prepared for so long, because Arjuna went to the heavenly planet to get all the weapons, and when they were in exile, they were all preparing for this war. So, how come this nervousness has overcome upon you? So, then Krishna is saying that this is unbefitting for you in three different ways. So, what are the three different ways? First is saying Anarya. Anarya Justam Aswargyam. So, Anarya means you will become, or you will be called as Arya is a person who understands, generally a person who knows the spiritual value of life. So Anarya means somebody who doesn't understand the spiritual value of life. So it will be unbefitting to Arjuna in three different ways. He will be called as Anarya, as who you are now, and then it will not take you to auspicious destination in the future, which is aswargyam, means you will not get swarga. By this action you will not get swarga. This is in the future. And then the other thing that will happen in his life will be akirti karam Arjuna. So this kirti means fame. So this kind of act, what you are displaying right now, it will bring infamy to your name in this world. So this will happen in this life. So this is how this whole situation which you are manifesting right now is going to actually destroy you. It's going to destroy you. It's not going to help you in the future. It is not going to help you in this same life. These people who are there, the warriors on the other side, they are going to tell that if you don't fight, they'll tell you that, oh, this Arjuna is a coward. They will not think that you're not fighting because of the feelings which you have for a relative, the soft-heartedness. So they will not see like that. They will tell Arjuna is a coward. That's why he ran away from the battlefield. So this is how Krishna is actually chastising Arjuna right in the beginning when he speaks in this verse. So here there is a word which is Arya. So we are going to discuss all these terms as also been discussed by Srila Prabhupada. So since this purport is pretty long, so I'll directly jump into the purport and we will see what Srila Prabhupada has to explain us. So Prabhupada begins with the description of word Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if very beginning is making it clear that Lord Krishna is not an ordinary man, not even an extraordinary man. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the topmost. He is the absolute truth. So what is absolute truth? All these things we are going to see or discuss in this today's session. So Prabhupada brings the point first that Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Means Krishna and Bhagavan are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Bhagavan is ultimate in the absolute truth. So this word will be used again and again. Absolute truth, we will find this word again in different places. So let's understand what is the meaning of absolute truth. So there are two types of truth, absolute truth and relative truth. So absolute truth is that thing. Absolute truth refers to a reality which doesn't change over time. So it remains constant eternally. That is absolute truth. Absolute means that all the truth are relative to it or depends on it. So this is another meaning of absolute truth, that all the other truths actually depend on that truth. So relative truth, let's understand that first. So relative truth means, let's say every season we get flowers starting from the spring seasons. So the garden becomes green, and then later on in the winter, you don't see any flowers. All the flowers are dead because of the cold. And then again in the spring you will see the flowers coming in the garden. So is the flower growing in the garden a true statement? Yes. So that is true, but it is not growing in the garden all the time during the year. In certain period of time it grows, and basically it manifests, and then certain period of time it unmanifests. So this is relative, so it's a relative truth. So now for the absolute truth, it is truth all the time. So when we talk about God or Krishna, we are talking about the absolute truth. So Krishna is Sri Krishna or Bhagavan in any position, whatever position, whether he is 1 day old child, or whether he is in the womb of the mother, or whether he is playing a role of animal, so like he was playing a role of a boar. So in that condition also he was the Supreme Lord. So that is the meaning of absolute truth. Now the absolute truth is the source of everything. That is another meaning. From absolute truth everything comes. The ultimate cause of all causes. In Sanskrit it is called as Satyam Param, the highest truth. Right? So this supreme truth can be perceived in three features. So absolute truth is truth for all the time, but then people, depending on their realization, they can understand the absolute truth in three different ways. This is what is being discussed now. The supreme truth can be perceived in three features: as Brahman, all pervading and impersonal oneness; as Paramatma, the manifestation of God within the heart of every being; and as Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead. So these three are the same one truth, understood from increasingly advanced level of realization. So depending on the realization of a person, this absolute truth is one, but depending on the realization of the person, they understand different features of the absolute truth. So somebody sees absolute truth as Brahman, all pervading Brahman. Somebody sees as absolute truth in everyone's heart as Paramatma, and then some advanced soul can see the absolute truth as a person, having a personality, and that personality is Lord Sri Krishna. So in the beginning the absolute truth appears impersonal. So this is a beginning level of realization, and Prabhupada has discussed this particular point of what in this paragraph given in details in the purport. So let's just quickly review it. So in the beginning the absolute truth appears impersonal. With more advancement, the supreme is perceived within one's heart and the others heart of the others, and the highest realization is to see the supreme truth as the supreme person who is complete in wealth, power, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation. The Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature identify this supreme as Lord Sri Krishna. So this is about the definition of the absolute truth. Now, having understood the term absolute truth, Prabhupada here explains that how the absolute truth can be realized. So we saw that Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So this is what Prabhupada is going to discuss in this paragraph. Absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit. So the Brahman feature of the Lord is the feature in which somebody who is trying to understand Brahman is seeing that the Lord is all pervasive everywhere. Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities. They see that the Lord or the absolute truth is within the heart of each and every living entities, and even within the atoms. And the Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, that is the highest, which is seeing Lord as a person and then having relationship with the Lord. So in the Bhagavan feature you can have, because the Bhagavan feature of the Lord is a person but is absolute truth at the same time, and this is kind of difficult to understand, but this is what all the scriptures explain. So then somebody would like to have a relationship with the Lord. So everybody can have relation with the Lord, and Lord can have relation with everyone at the same time. So this is the beauty of having relationship with the Lord. So when we have relationship with the Lord, then actually we can serve the Lord. That is the whole purpose. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, this has been explained, that this conception of absolute truth is explained. Vadanti tat tattvavidastatvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaneti sabdate. So the absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Advayam means they are identical because they are same. The feature of the Lord and such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So these are the three features of the absolute truth. Now, a very simple example can be given in our day-to-day experience to explain this. And Prabhupada gives one other example. But let's say we enter into somebody's home and somebody is cooking samosa. So as soon as we enter the room, this cooking is going on in kitchen, but we enter through the main door. So we have not seen the kitchen yet, but we smell samosa. So that is the one level of realization. Then we go into the kitchen and then we see that the person is actually frying samosa. Our friend is frying samosa. So now we have already smelled it, but now we are seeing it. So that is a higher level of realization. So, and then finally that's our friend makes a dish and samosa chaat kind of thing and then present it to us and then we eat. So that is the third level of realization. So it's the same samosa, but depending on our distance from it, we understood the samosa in different ways. So first one was just a smell. Second one was we are smelling as well as we are seeing it. That's a little higher than just smelling. And the third one is we are actually tasting it. So we are smelling, we are seeing, we are tasting it. That's the highest realization. So similarly, Brahman is the initial level of realization, and then Paramatma is a little higher, and then Bhagavan is the highest. So example Srila Prabhupada gives is about sun. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of a sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. So the sun can be seen as the sunshine, as the sun's surface, the disk, and the planet itself. The different level of understanding. One who studies the sunshine only is the preliminary student. One who has understand the sun's surface is further advanced, and one who enters into the sun planet is the highest. Right, so this is the three different levels of understanding. So similarly, the lowest level of understanding, though it is advayam, it is non-dual, is the Brahman realization. Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature may be compared to those who realized only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. Right? So this is the Brahman feature where it's impersonal in nature. There is no dealing with the personality. So it's just glaring effulgence and it's just the sunshine. So experiencing the sun in that way can be compared to Brahman realization. And higher than that is a Paramatma realization. The student who has advanced still further knows that the sun disk, which is compared to the knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. So first somebody just sees the sunshine, then the person has one kind of understanding, but then the person knows that the sunshine is actually coming from the sun disk. So then they look at the sun disk and they understand that what that sun disk is, how far it is from us, and all other details of the sun disk. So that is a little higher level of knowledge. So that is compared to Paramatma realization. And the third one is the Bhagavan realization. As the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to the those who realize the personal feature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So therefore, the Bhaktas or the Transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagavan feature of the Absolute Truth are the topmost Transcendentalists. So Transcendentalist means those who want to transcend this material world and they want to go to the spiritual world. So they are all Transcendentalists. But among the Transcendentalists, the Bhaktas are the highest or the topmost. Although all students who are engaged in the study of the absolute truth are engaged in the same subject matter, So it's trying to understand the same thing, but they have different level of realization based on their understanding. The sunshine and the sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another. And yet, the student of three different phases are not in the same category. So, as we also understood, like, when somebody is smelling the samosa and then somebody is smelling and seeing the samosa, whereas somebody is eating the samosa, their realizations are different. It's a greater degree of realization, but it's the same samosa. Actually, it's the same samosa which is being fried, but the experience of the different persons, is at different level. So that is what has been discussed here. Now, the meaning of word Bhagwan. So the term Bhagwan is defined by Parashar Muni. Parashar Muni is father of Vyasdev. So he explains the term Bhagwan. The Sanskrit word Bhagwan is explained by the great authority Parashara Muni, the father of Vyasdev. In South India they call him Parashar Bhatta. So same Parashar Muni, the supreme personality of who possesses all riches. So Bhagavan, so Van means possessor, like Dhanvan. So one who possesses Dhana. Dhan means wealth. Vidyavan, so somebody who has knowledge or who have education. Then Bhagyavan, somebody who has luck. So these are Van means one who possesses it. So similarly, Bhaga, somebody who possesses Bhaga is Bhagavan. So what are the Bhaga? So there are 6 Bhagas, or one who possesses the riches, all strength, all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called as Bhagavan. There are so many persons who are very rich, very powerful, and very beautiful, very famous, very learned, and much detached. But no one can claim that he possesses all rich, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all these things, beauty, somebody is famous or learned, these are the attributes or characteristics somebody have even little, they become very attractive. Like somebody like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, or Mr. Ambani, they are very rich, so people get attracted to that. Or somebody who is very powerful, then people get attracted to that. Somebody who is very famous, or somebody who is even detached, like Gandhiji was very detached, Nelson Mandela was very detached. So they were all famous because of their detachment. So even if little they have these qualities or these attributes that make them very famous, but nobody can claim that they have all riches, they have all beauty, they have all famous, or all learned, or all detached. This only Krishna can claim. This is given in the scriptures. So that is why Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And this is a definition given by Parashar Muni in Vishnu Purana. In Vishnu Purana 6.5.47. So this is what is described over there. There is no living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayana, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. So these are not made up statements, these are coming directly from the scripture. Therefore, it can be concluded in Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even Lord Shiva says that in many other scriptures, no one is equal to or about to him. Now is no one is equal to or about than Krishna. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in many places, Matta parataram na anyat kinchidacchi dhananjaya. There is no truth superior to me. Then he is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhu, Matta sarvam pravartate. Everything begins from me. So this kind of statements, Krishna is not boasting about himself, but he is just introducing himself. So if a doctor says that, I am a doctor, or if a minister says I am a minister, he is introducing himself. So similarly, Krishna is letting other people know about himself. He already has it. He doesn't have to boast. So this is, when we read about Krishna, we need to take in that mood that Krishna is not actually bragging about himself. He is just letting us know who he is, and that is only by his mercy. He doesn't. He has a right to not let us know, but by his merciful nature, he is letting us know that I am your supreme Father. Yeah. So no one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord, or Bhagavan, known as Govinda, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. So who says this? This has been spoken by Brahmaji in Brahma Samhita. He is saying, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but some, so people can have some riches, some beauty, some fame, some renunciation. So that's why he's saying there are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because no one can excel him. Ishvara Parama Krishna, he's a Parameshwara. There can be many Ishwaras, there can be many gods, but he is not Ishvara, he is a Parameshwara. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So Sachidananda is, his body is Sat, means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means bliss. He is the primeval Lord, Govinda. Anadir Adir Govinda. Primeval means there is no beginning. There was nothing beyond Krishna. Or Krishna never had beginning. He is eternal. There is nothing, before him. So he is the source of everything. Let's put it in that way. He is the source of everything, and he doesn't have any source. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. Cause of all causes. So this is Brahma Samhita 5.1. Then Prabhupada brings up the point, in Bhagavatam, Krishna is the origin supreme personality of Godhead. So in Bhagavatam, also there is a list of many incarnations of supreme personality of Godhead. But Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. So this we discussed in the previous session, that when Krishna's appearance happened, on that day actually I talked about that there are many incarnations which are discussed, 20 plus incarnations discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam. And after describing all these incarnations, then Vyasdev says that ete cha kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So all the list of incarnation of Godhead which has been submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansion of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. This is Bhagavatam SB, Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, the source of both Super Soul and Brahman. And in the next point, Prabhupada says that Krishna was surprised about Arjuna's lamentation. So, Krishna being the Supreme Lord, now we can understand who he is. So now he is seeing Arjuna in this state or this condition. So he is actually surprised. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentations for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming. It is not fit actually, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the word Kutah. From where? Kutastva. From where from this kind of lamentation you are expressing? That's what he's saying. And then he is saying that Anarya. So such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. So we have heard this term Aryan many times, that especially nowadays Aryan is connoted with, it has a negative connotation. It is a negative connotation because this Arya term is linked with Aryan migration theory, and that theory has no basis. So basically the point is that the Indians, they think that the Indians were they were not intelligent, they were not fit for, they didn't have any advancement. So people from the north of India, basically the countries from the north of India, they actually came to India, and then they try to help Indian people to become more sophisticated. So every country, they started claiming that we are Aryans, and then actually Hitler also claimed that I am the Aryan, and he put his symbol also as, he adopted the symbol of swastik. And then after this, World War II happened. So Arya became associated with the whole socio-cultural or political um, things which erupted the Second World War. So now nobody wants to associate themselves with the word Arya. So now it has a negative connotation. But here the word Arya is used for somebody who is knowing the spiritual values or the spiritual purpose of life. So that is the Sanskrit meaning of Aryan. So that's why here Prabhupada is putting, such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. So these are the civilized class of men. And the word Aryan is applicable to a person who knows the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. So this is the meaning of Arya. But then people started claiming that we are Aryan, we are intelligent class, and all those things happened. All this, but those theories had no basis. So then the ignorant people who doesn't know the spiritual value of, right, they can be considered as non-Aryans. So here Prabhupada is putting that concept of non-Aryans. So person who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth. So this is actually the aim of life. We just understood the absolute truth a few moments back. So the goal of life should be to realize that absolute truth. There is nothing else, and that absolute truth is Vishnu or Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. So people who are led by material conception, they don't know that the goal of the life is absolute truth or Krishna. But what they are captivated with, they are captivated with the external feature, the Maya feature of the world. And therefore they do not understand the purpose of life, and they do not understand that the goal of life is liberation. So person who don't have no knowledge of liberation from the material bondage are called as non-Aryans. So these are non-Aryans. They don't understand, or they have no knowledge what is the real goal of life. So now Arjuna is acting like an Anarya. Anarya means somebody who is not Arya. So although Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties. So we need to know why Arjuna came to fight. So the purpose of coming to fight this war was to re-establish Dharma. So his prescribed duty was to re-establish Dharma. But here we see now Arjuna is declining to fight. So he is deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryan. So this act, Krishna is saying, is a totally non-Aryan act. Such deviation from duty does not help anyone to progress in the spiritual life, nor does it even give an opportunity to become famous in this world. Akirtikaram. It will not make you kirti. It will not make you famous, but it is going to basically bring akirti. And how it is going to bring akirti in Arjuna's life, that is elaborated from verse number 31 to 38. That you will become infamous. You are heroic warrior, but if you leave the battlefield, people will think you are cowardly and you only ran out of fear. So this is the point Krishna is trying to prove to Arjuna. So that's why Krishna is saying that Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. That's the reason Krishna is not approving. And then He is also saying Aswargayam. He is also, Krishna is bringing that point of Aswargayam. He says, in this life you will be called as a cowardly man. Also, you lose the opportunity to go to Swargaloka. Because if the warriors they die in the battlefield, then they go to Swarga after this life. So this is all discussed in future verses, and with this we'll stop here and we'll continue with our discussion in the future verses. So this particular slides give the summary of what we have discussed in the purport of chapter verse number 2. So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.